There's hope. I mean, maybe there's hope if they're parents like stop
I
now.
think you can say that.
Yeah, that's him. That was him. Not anymore, but it was him.
Everybody's got big thoughts.
Yeah, right?
Try not to. We're here again after the last.
Sarah, what did you find out in the speech? Oh, yeah. Don't you use that? Do
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it tonight. Here we go.
or their boundaries have to overlap. There's one little piece of land that the boundary
Good, so, yeah, it's important stuff. To take some off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's ready to make it happen.
City.
So every day.
Yeah, oh.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for coming. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like you to do is, if you have a cell phone with you, please put it on vibrate or silent mode, so it hopefully it won't interrupt us during the meeting. It's a great turnout tonight. I'm glad to see everybody here. The first thing we always do with any of our village meetings is start the meeting with the pledge. So if you will all please rise, join me with the pledge. The flag is right up there. Come on in. We're going to do the pledge. We're going to do the pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joe, can you see if we have enough seats for everyone? We don't, I think we have a few more in the conference room.
Yeah, I got a few more there, TJ.
Okay, we do have a couple more empty seats up here up front, if anybody that's standing would like a seat. So I want to welcome everybody again. Tonight's meeting is a recap of where we're at with our sewer study. And Sarah, can you go to the next slide? This is an overview of the topics that we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about our current revenue breakdown, our sales tax and how it's growing, where our real estate tax money goes. And we'll get into more of the sewer study, some of the advantages and disadvantages, the options we looked at, what Benward, Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District is. We'll talk about the option we recommend we look at, what the final connection cost would be, and where we're at with grants and loans, and move on from there. Next slide. This is a overview of where our revenue comes from that the village works on every year. The biggest revenue is our state income tax that we get. Just a little over a third of our money is from state income tax. That is based on our population. Our next biggest revenue source is our sales tax, and that is based on the amount of sales that are in Hudson, taxable sales from the business in Hudson. The third highest revenue source for us is our property tax. And one of the things I have to update on this chart is the gaming tax is now growing. It's close to 5 to 10% of our revenue. Our utility tax is 10%, and everything else put together is about 11%. So the majority of our revenue is from state income tax, and sales tax is the next biggest portion of our revenues. Next slide. This slide shows how our sales tax has grown in the last 4 or 5 years. Our sales tax revenue exceeded $180,000 last year, and 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were at about $120,000. So there's new businesses in town, which is primarily Dollar General and Sewing Studio, have been a very positive impact on our sales tax revenue. And I put this in here just to show that new businesses do have a very positive impact to the revenue for us. Next slide. We all get to pay our property tax every year. This is just kind of a recap of where your property tax money goes. The big blue portion there is Unit 5. They get 64% of the tax bill you pay. Hudson gets 4%. So if your tax bill were only $1,000, we would be getting $40 of that, 4%. So it is significant when it adds up to everything, but the majority of your your annual real estate tax does not go to Hudson. Most of it goes to Unit 5. Next slide. I want to talk for a minute on how we got started with this. I have not lived in Hudson all my life. I've been here probably 40 some years. And over the years, I lived near Bob Behrens, who was a trustee for a lot of years in Hudson. he brought up several times about having a sewer in Hudson and running it along the railroad tracks. Those of us that have lived in Hudson for a while, there used to be railroad tracks that ran from Normal to Hudson up to El Paso. And right now, a lot of that is Constitution Trail walking path, some of it is farm ground. But at that time, he said it'd be nice if we could just run a sewer right alongside the railroad tracks. And that was 25 or 30 years ago, but nothing was ever done about it. And then I know when Mark Cutkey was mayor, he brought it up several times, but as far as I know, nothing was ever done about it. And so a couple of years ago, the state announced a grant program for unsewered communities. They will pay up to $20,000 for a study, which is what we're doing. And then if people move beyond the study and construct a sewer, they will provide up to a $5 million grant for that sewer. So we had an opportunity to get the $20,000 grant from the state of Illinois to do the study. So we started the study, what, a year and a half ago? So we are doing the study now. We're at a phase where we are needing to get the word out to the public on where we're at, get public feelings for what their ideas are on a sewer. Do we need one in Hudson? Do we not need one? We're trying to gauge community support or dislike for this type of project. So that's where we're at, and this is our fourth public meeting dedicated to sewer discussion. So everyone's aware of it. This PowerPoint is on our website. You can pull it from our website, and hopefully you get a little better copy. So the detailed sewer study is also on our website. Anybody is welcome to pull that down. So I have no problem with you taking cameras or pictures, but it's accessible and everybody can have it. So we listed a few of the advantages of having a sewer system in Hudson. Eventually, septic systems fail. Cost today is $15,000 to $30,000. Some of the lots in town may not have room for a new system. The McLean County Health Department does not let you put a new system over your existing septic system if it fails. So McLean County Health Department says the average life is around 30 years. The federal EPA says it's about 50 years. So I don't know what it is. I think some of ours in Hudson that have never been replaced are at least 50 years old or older. So they've been doing a good job. So I think the ground we must have here must be very good ground for sewer systems. So we have had some failures, but not many. So next bullet point, the drainage ditch that we have that runs through town, goes through 6 Mile Creek, flows into Evergreen Lake, which is one of the two of the sources for our water supply, including our drinking water. So when you think about what goes into that drainage ditch, it's groundwater, you know, from everything, rainwater runoff, all the groundwater from our septic systems eventually gets there. It's all being turned around and comes back as drinking water. So third, a sewer system would make Hudson more attractive to businesses and homeowners considering locating. And it's been pointed out that, yeah, it may make it more attractive or it may make it less attractive for someone considering coming to Hudson, because there is a monthly sewer bill that would be associated with it. So that bullet point may or may not be attractive. So next bullet point, implementing now, and this has been, I believe, misunderstood. The EPA is not requiring us to do this. We have not said that they're requiring to do it. We have said that they may require us to do it. I'm not aware of any lists that we're on. EPA has gone in and made Lexington and Downs both implement sewer systems over the last 20 years. They had different challenges than what we have in Hudson, but the EPA could come in and make us do it. So it would be likely be much cheaper now to put a sewer system in now than in 10 years from now when we're under the gun from the EPA to do it, if that would ever happen. I'm not saying that it ever would happen, but I'm saying it could happen. So And I talked about Benward. Benward is the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District. They are the district or the location that treats all of Bloomington, Normal, and down sewage. The Bloomington and Normal collect it and send it to the southwest corner of Bloomington, and that's where Benward resides, and that's where all of the sewage water gets treated. So we have an option. They are trying to become more of a regional system. They are going to be expanding and looking at communities like Downs, Hudson, and Carlock, and trying to get collection pipes near those communities. So that if we ever wanted to connect to them, we would not have to have our own treatment plant or pay for our own treatment operator if we wanted to do it. So that would be an advantage to doing it, connecting to them. And when we were in Washington DC, talking to the EPA last winter, they pointed out that because of some of the recent some of the budget processing that's going on, it's more likely that money is available for sewer grants now and over the next 3 to 5 years than what it's ever been in the past. And it could be more available now than what it'll be in the future. Nobody knows what's coming in the future. We don't know, but they know it's more is available, a lot more is available now than what's been in the past. Next slide. Some of the disadvantages are new monthly expenses. Construction bonds would need to be paid. Monthly treatment expenses would need to be paid. And bullet number 2, generally speaking, our existing septic systems do not back up into houses unless the system fails. And the system fail, your septic system you have now could fail without causing a backup. It's possible it could back up, and it's possible it wouldn't. We implement a sewer system, roads and yards are going to be tore up while we do construction. And big bullet point, we don't know what kind of financing assistance is available at this time. And the only way we're going to find out is to make a decision to move forward, to tentatively plan to build and then go looking for more grant money to help pay for this. Our Hudson medium household income that came out on the next census is well above the state average. Medium household income on the last census for Hudson was $82,500 per household. That is what the census had. That is not what anybody in Hudson figured. So, the medium household income impacts our ability to get grants. The higher the medium household income is, the less of a chance we have to get grants. So, next bullet point, if we connect to Benward, it may require several lift stations to get our sewage to them. They are, and it'll show up on one of the charts later on or maps later on, they are looking at coming fairly close to Hudson, within about a linear mile of Hudson with some of their expansion plans. So, next slide. As I started to say, Benward collects the wastewater from Bloomington, Normal, and Downs. They treat the wastewater and put it back in Sugar Creek, I believe it is. It flows on through the state system then of lakes and streams. Bloomington, Normal, and Downs own the collection system in their towns, and they maintain the collection systems in their towns. Benward actually owns the treatment facilities, and they are working to become a regional system. And again, the advantage to us would be that we would not have to have our own treatment plant, nor would we have to have a full-time licensed operator here to monitor the treatment plant. think Lexington's, full-time operator is retiring, and they are hiring a replacement at a cost of like $80,000 a year. So the treatment operators are very expensive employees. We probably wouldn't need a full-time one. We should be able to share one with some of the other communities that have sewer systems, but it would be a new expense for us, so. Next chart. Okay, I don't know how well this is gonna show up. This is, maybe you can expand it a little bit. I don't know if you can or not on this screen. This shows some of the Benward zones and what they're currently have and what they're planning to expand to. Go on to the next chart. This one will show it a little better. At the top of this map, I don't know if you can make out where Hudson is, but Hudson is to the left of the word Hudson. The south end of Hudson is East 2100 North Road. South of that 1 mile is East 2000 North Road, and Benward is planning to expand to East 2000 North Road and would come within a mile of Hudson. So they would do that expansion. If we would get a sewer system, we would only have to pump it roughly a mile to get it from Hudson into the Benward system. And Benward would have control of it from that point. So Brant and Nussbaum are currently not on, they're not on any sewer systems. They have their own septic systems. But Believe Normal is looking at trying to annex them, and then they would probably get the sewer connections from Normal and then be added to the Benward system. So they are currently part of Hudson Fire District, but likely to be annexed into Normal shortly over the next couple of years. So. Okay, go on to the next slide. Feel free to ask questions at any time, and we will have a period at the end of tonight for anyone who has questions or comments to stand up and please present those. So we looked at 4 different primary options. It's part of the study. The first option is to take no action at all. And projected cost for that over the next 20 years was about $3 million. That's with everybody pumping their tanks every couple years. That includes some failures. I don't remember how many anticipated failures we had, but some systems are likely to fail over the next 20 years. And so not doing anything is likely to cost homeowners $3 million. And again, we're not doing it. We don't have a crystal ball. We're making our best estimate based on our engineers' experience with sewer systems. So the next option was regionalization at a cost of $23 million. That was connecting to Benward, which after they get their regional pipes in about a mile from Hudson. The third and fourth options are with the village having their own collection system and having their own lagoon treatment plants. And both of those are $1 million plus more dollars than connecting to Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District. So, and next line on the chart, regionalization is obviously dependent on Benward. We would not start until Benward was ready to come within a mile of Hudson. So, do we have any chairs left anywhere?
Yeah. One there. There's one there and one back there.
Okay.
Any idea when Ben was gonna expand?
I don't think they gave a year yet. I think they're looking at 2 to 5 years out to get that connection up here. Yes.
Said Grant and Nussbaum get annexed into normal, maybe, would we lose their tax revenue?
I think right now, the fire department is not getting tax revenue from them because of a TIF type agreement. When they moved in, I think there was a TIF incentive for Brant. I'm not sure about Newspawn, but for Brant anyway, to move in. And the fire department forwent some of the tax revenues they would have got as part of the TIF incentive to get Brant in here. I'm not 100% up to speed on that, so I know when they started Brant, there was no tax revenue from Brant. I don't know if they're getting any now or not. When that TIF agreement would expire, yes, they would get revenue from it unless it's annexed into normal.
So if they're annexed in normal.
If they're annexed to normal, then normal will get the revenue.
So we lose out on it.
We would lose out. And I don't know if there's anybody here from the fire department or any of the fire department trustees that could update us on that. I know I said at the meeting when Brant was being discussed, I don't know if there was the same type of deal for Newspawn or not. So,
Fire department, it's not part of.
I'm sorry, Bob.
The fire department tax incentive from Village Hudson, et cetera.
Okay, the Village of Hudson is not gonna get any tax revenue from them, period, either way.
The fire
Because-
department's separate from.
Right, the fire department taxes is totally separate, and that's why I'm not up to speed on what's going on there. It's a separate taxing district, they set their own rates, they manage their own budgets and everything, so. Yes,
The Benward expansion into North Normal there is gonna happen regardless of whether Hudson.
yes, I think so.
Okay.
From what we were told, that, you know,
They expect to put a collector sewer up on the west side of the interstate and come across and pull up to that area. And that's part of their current plan right now, regardless of what Hudson does.
Not sure the difference between the two treatment plant options up there, but, we chose that, which I assume is our Hudson treatment plants. How soon would we begin construction and where would those treatment plants be located? Would they be, at least a mile away from any home or,
okay, my hearing is terrible, so I heard part of your question. Would you mind stepping up to the mic and so everybody can hear your question?
All right, tap the, right there, on the top of the stand.
There's kind of a,
Here.
on top. Yes,
I'm not sure the difference between the two treatment plants, what those consist of, but I assume they would both be in Hudson.
they would be near Hudson.
Okay. How close to any residents would they be? And also, if we elected for one of those two options, is that, and we all agreed on that, would construction begin immediately next year or?
It would probably depend on when we could secure financing to move ahead. It's not going to be within a year. I would be surprised if we would start in 2 years, but I would think if we move ahead with any of the plans, it would probably be 2 to 4 years. We would start.
So very similar with all three options.
I would think so, yeah. As far as how close if we had our own lagoon system, I think, what do we plan on, a mile or two?
It was at least a mile, and it would likely be located in the southeast quadrant of where the village is. That direction.
A mile away from any residents, any current residents.
Yeah, well, out in a way where there was available land.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you explain again, part where it says no action, why that cost $3.2 million?
Okay, well, everybody is paying $300 or whatever, should be paying $300, whatever it costs to get your tank pumped every 3 to 5 years. That is a cost that if you take that over a 20-year period, that's a substantial cost to the citizens. Then there were also some costs for building new systems, because over the next 20 years, there will likely be some of our systems will fail. So I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but that's the major components of the no cost action.
The individual costs there are, the village was, going to be allocating some funds to investigating and correcting accidental or illegal discharges. And then there were, biannual pumping of all the septic tanks, and then a 20-year replacement of all major system components. That's where those numbers come from.
Okay, before we go any further, I've made a terrible mistake. I didn't introduce myself. I should have done that right off the bat. I'm Dave Rutlog. I'm currently the mayor. And this is Greg Gustafson. He is our engineer from BCA. Greg knows the sewer business, and I don't know a lot about anything. So. Yes, go ahead.
So, my name's Jim. So that $3 million of cost there you just described, that's generally borne by the homeowner, not borne by the city and passed through to the homeowner.
That is
Correct.
correct.
And it's also borne, if I have a 50-year-old house, the likelihood of replacement is much sooner for me than if I have a 10-year-old house.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we looked at several collection options as far as different types of systems that can be implemented for sewage treatment or for sewage collection. One is a combination of gravity and pump stations. Another's gravity and low pressure force mains. A third is gravity and pump stations. I'm sorry, that was our first option. That's the one we preferred. Greg, would you kind of give an explanation of the low pressure force mains?
Low pressure force mains are where, instead of replacing the septic tank remains, and there are individual pumps that are put in the septic tanks, and that is used with smaller diameter lines that then pump to the collection system.
So those are the main two options that the most towns use, one of those two.
And as far as that option we're talking about, but the septic tank could still crack, what have you, have to replace that as a substantial cost, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And there are individual pumps in each septic tank to be able to move that liquid.
That kind of seems counterintuitive.
I would agree.
That's just me, though.
But it's an option. It does exist, and there are those systems out there that are constructed.
That was not our preferred option, just to clarify for everyone, so. Next slide. Yes,
What does that do for a property value to have a pumping station within a mile of our homes? If you're talking about putting it south end, French subdivision.
okay, your part of your question, would you please come up to the mic, please, so everybody can hear it? Thank you.
We've been in Prairie View subdivision for almost 21 years, and I wanted to know what it does to our property values if you put a pumping station or whatever you call it about a mile from our subdivision.
Okay, I have looked for studies that said the impact of value or impact on values of homes. I have not been able to find a study. I would think it would have no impact. When I look at Bloomington Normal, when you go to buy a house there, do you have any idea where the pumping stations are in Bloomington Normal or Downs or other communities. I mean, they're in different communities, and I don't think the location of the pumping station, because of the new technology and the fact that they can eliminate most of the, if not all of the bad odors that come out of the pumping stations, I don't think it's an issue to property values, especially if they're a mile away. So,
Mile is nothing.
I'm sorry,
A mile is just, it's nothing if that's your home, you're a mile away. Wind, you bring it in,
right,
and then this way, we've got a big old creek.
yeah, I'm not saying that if we had our own treatment facilities, I would think that would be more likely to have an odor drifting into town than a pumping station. So either way, I mean, there's a risk of having odors in town. So, yes,
To piggyback on that question, you mentioned property taxes earlier. Any estimation of how much they would go up, 5-10% or less?
okay, I'm gonna defer that for a minute because Benward has a property tax for Bloomington Normal and Down, or for Bloomington and Normal, but not for Downs, because of the way Benward is set up and the contiguous area that makes up the Benward property tax base. The owner of a $200,000 house in Bloomington Normal pays about $117 a year to Benward. So if you got a $400,000 house, it would be double that. It would be about $234 a year. Now, for Hudson, if we are not part of the district, we would still have to pay Benward that amount every year, but it would be part of the monthly bill rather than added to the property tax. So we'll get into that in a few minutes as far as what the monthly bill would look like and how that would all be covered. So it may go up. $200,000 house would be $117 a year. It appears to me right now, if we would move ahead, that would have to be part of the monthly bill rather than part of the annual property tax. Okay, question back?
Yeah, I was looking over the report you guys had.
Can you come up and please use the mic?
I'm sorry, what? I can't hear.
Okay, can you hear me now? So in the study that you guys have on page 63, that's online, you have said multiple times that you're not sure we're gonna get some of this extra grant money. And then if I heard you correctly, you said that we can't actually apply for it until actually we put this in progress, that we have to actually start this before we can find out the money. But it says near the end, it says that until additional grant money is identified, this project appears to be financially, not to be financially feasible for the building of Hudson residents. So you're saying that we want to go ahead, but we're not sure we have all the money. And even your own report says that we don't find the money, it's really not feasible for us. So I don't understand how you want us to go ahead when we don't even know where the money is coming.
Okay, it's not explained real well. My understanding is that we can make a tentative decision to go ahead and then secure some of our grant money, and then we can start. We're pretty confident, and we'll get into the grant side of it here pretty quick. Pretty confident we can get the $5 million from the Illinois EPA and $2 million from the USDA RD, Rural Development Area. But beyond that, unless we make a commitment to at least look seriously at additional finances, we can't go to our senators and say, hey, can you give us money? They're gonna say, how committed are you? We say we're not, then we're not gonna get in.
Well, can we go worst case scenario? Let's say you start going down this path and we start applying for grants and we get no money, or we get much less than you guys anticipate. Is it something we can back out of, or is it something we have to go full force and rebuild the budget?
I'm not sure, I'll be quite frank. Greg might have more experience with the grant side of it than I do.
The village will the village will incrementally commit to this process. And if the funding is not there for the village to be able to afford it, it won't go forward for several reasons. One, the village won't decide to go forward with it. That's Dave's half of the decision making. EPA will not allow you, they will not lend you the money. They will not give you the grant funds if you're not going to be able to make that repayment schedule.
So if we go, you said incrementally, we start to process, let's say we go through first phase, does that impact us financially? And then if all of a sudden we don't have the money and we pull back, then we've already financially invested into the first phase. I mean, is that how it's gonna work out? I mean, is there a way to designate how these incrementally gonna be applied to the village of Hudson and how much it's gonna cost us? And then if we don't find the money, can we pull back? I mean, how does that work? Because I'm worried that we're gonna just go headlong into this, and all of a sudden, it's like, wow, we can't find the money, magically it just didn't show up, and we're kind of in trouble, and we're on the hook. I mean, it says in the report that they're talking about possibly $103 or more a month. That, for 40 years, is $50,000 per household. That's a lot of money, and a lot of us don't have that kind of money just to be forking out right now. You know, and I mean, I'm really frustrated with that, and I don't think that it's been told to enough people. I mean, you look online, I mean, there's a lot of hearsay online, I understand that. But you hear a lot of people, they don't know what's going on, and everything kind of goes through the telephone game, if you will. But I'm really concerned that we're gonna go down this, we're kind of plowing ahead, we're just, you know, bam, 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 let's do it. But we don't have the funding, we're not sure if we can make it work, but we should have the funding. And many times we're told we'll get the funding, and funding doesn't show up, and then we're on the hook, and that's what I'm really concerned about.
I understand that. And the way it sets right now, you know, the board will make the decision for what we do next. And with the monthly payments, we'll hit a slide or two. I'm confident that they would say, we're not gonna go anywhere.
Well, I just have one more thing on that. Is there a possibility that you'll let us vote on this as a village? Because, I mean, this is a very big, you know, decision. We're talking millions of dollars. And I think that we should actually have a say as a village, not just, I know the board members were elected, but I feel like some of the board members just like do it all the way. And I don't feel like we're all being represented, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are terrified of this. You got a lot of people that are on retirement income. They don't have this extra money to be throwing out. They might be moving out of this area because they can't afford to stay here. And I know it seems like $200 is not a lot. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money right now in this economy.
I will check with our attorney to see if we can do a binding vote. I know he said we could do a non-binding vote next spring with the next election. I don't know if we can do a binding one or not.
But that would be great. At least let us have a voice in this thing, because I feel like we don't have a voice.
Is there a way you can make sure that everybody gets a chance to vote, as in sending them? I don't know.
Is there a way we can make sure that everybody has a chance to vote?
Yeah.
Why would they not have a chance to vote? I'm sorry, why would people not have a chance to vote?
Because
Well-
this decision is being made by 4 people, is that not true?
There are 6 trustees.
Okay, they're gonna make the decision, not us.
Well, I have to find out, that we've been asked whether or not we can do a referendum.
Yes.
And I've been told we can do a non-binding referendum that everybody would vote, give it your opinion. I have not asked yet if we could do a binding referendum, and I will ask that.
Because that is extremely important. If 4 people are gonna make the decision for the town, or if we have a say, because we don't have a say.
If I can clarify something,
Please.
the payment for the sewer system, the theoretical $103 a month, doesn't start. The board makes these decisions, but in my past experience, all right, that payment doesn't start until you're connected and the entire system is constructed. So when you,
So maybe more dollars matter.
it does matter because that's years off. And this is being portrayed as if that cost starts right now.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Is it true that there is a huge hookup charge, like maybe like that? Anybody heard about?
No, that is not correct. The question is it true that there is a huge hookup charge to connect? And the way our engineer has put this together, the cost for getting within 5 feet of your house would be part of the construction project cost. So the towns that have a $15,000 or $20,000 hookup charge, that majority of that cost would be part of the construction cost, and it would be part of the construction loan. What the homeowner would have would likely be a $300 to $400 bill to pay for a plumber to connect the last 5 feet. The EPA requires a licensed plumber to do the final connection. And so the village would get the names of 3 or 4 plumbers who would agree to do the work for a certain price. The last town was $300 or $400 a resident, and that would be the final hookup cost. There would not be a big $10,000, $20,000 or $30,000 connection cost.
About that connection cost.
Yes,
So they're going to dig in the ground within 5 feet of the house. And then a plumber is gonna come out and dig 5 more feet, and it's only gonna cost $300.
I don't know whether the plumber will do the digging or if everything will be already dug for the plumber to come out and finish the connection. But the EPA requires a licensed plumber to do that last connection.
Now, who's gonna pay for the permit
For,
hooking up to my house? Who's going to pay for getting rid of the septic system, the tank?
those would be part of the construction costs.
So the city's gonna pay for that.
No, the residents pay for everything. I'm not gonna deceive you. I mean, you pay for it. It's just, you're not gonna get a bill that's gonna be spread out over the life of the mortgage or the loan. So we don't generate revenue. I mean, we can't pay for it without being, reimbursed. So, yes, sir.
You're saying, I didn't realize the septic system we gotta get rid of it?
Or fill with sand.
No. The tank would be pumped and then filled with sand.
And that cost is within that.
That's correct. The cost to do that is part of the $24 million or $23 million total cost.
Well, I got an addition that was added onto my house, which I went through the health department, did it the right way, but I got 2 outlets where it goes into my tank. How is that gonna work?
During the connection process, during the design process, we will determine those sort of details. And there will be 2 connections from your house to the service line to the collection system. So those get picked up.
So you're saying,
We collect both.
and at no extra.
It's a complication of the system and there's no,
Like I said, I got 2 where it's discharged into one. And
Yep.
I'm no plumber. I don't know how that works.
you put a Y in.
Um,
You just
well,
connect it.
You say, all right, you know all about this, but I'm trying to understand how
Yes.
it all works.
That happens, and with additions, and during the design process, we communicate with households and make sure that that's not the case. On occasion, it happens during construction where somebody didn't know, they moved into a house. That whoever you sell your house to, they won't have a clue. So, it's one of those things as, I think in the 2 systems I've built, all right, we make the final connection and they say, well, it's funny, the bathroom in our addition doesn't work now. Nobody knew. We come back, we make a connection. It's taken care of.
At no charge, no additional charge.
Well, the issue is going to be, if your house is 100 foot back from the roadway and your neighbor's house is 75 foot back, is the village going to charge individuals a different rate? No, no. it all factors into the very big project.
Also where it's coming, where my discharge is coming out of my house, I've got natural gas lines that's coming in there also, utility lines coming in there also.
That's a normal component of construction.
Massive leach field, they added on to mine in the eighties instead of doing a percolation test, it's massive. They're gonna cut through each and every one of those lines, no extra charge to me, and run the new tile in my backyard, no problem.
The service connection would come to your house, the leach field becomes redundant at that point.
But you gotta get lower than it though, you've got to cut it all up, right?
No,
Leach field lower than what the sewer line would be?
no, the leach field, you don't have to abandon. I'm not sure what your question is.
There's a leach field in my backyard.
Yes,
Based on what I've seen there, the main lines and everything, I mean, you're gonna have to cut up all that leach line. Probably every line.
but we don't need to once the connection's made to the house. The connection's not made to the leach field.
Right, you gotta lay the line though, and you've got a leach field in the way.
I think you're right. I think the plan is, we're gonna go around the leach fields whenever possible.
I don't know how you do that, in my yard. There's a berm with a big storm drain and there's a massive leach field. But
You would pick a route that would minimize impacting the leach field. Maybe you take out one line.
But that's part of the massive cost. It's not additional cost.
No, that's correct.
You guys have thought about worst case scenarios, sprinkler system, massive leach fields, natural gas lines, all that stuff, and factor that into the cost. So there wouldn't be a surprise.
There's always surprises in construction. But we're anticipating no, there's not going to be a surprise cost.
Yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Hello, my name's Jim. I live in Prairie View. I've been there 21 years. I own 2 homes in Prairie View. I have another daughter who lives in a house in the north end, and yet another daughter who just sold a house on West Street. We've been in Hudson a long time. We like Hudson. Thank you for all your work. I appreciate what you're doing. And I appreciate Dave and team that you went after a study to try to figure out if a sewer system is good for Hudson. And if it was free, we'd all say, everybody back here would sign it, it's all free.
I'm not sure about that.
All right, well, it seems like that's the primary hot point in the room is price. I don't want to talk price right now. I want to ask a different question. So from where I sit, I want to know why. I want to know why. Like my septic systems are working well. They work well. I do what you described. Every several years, we have somebody pump it. We take care of them, so forth, and they work well. Haven't had anything fail. I recognize there's a life to that. That life will end. Okay. In the report, in the 99-page report, on page 29, there's a summary of considerations, and it talked about some leaching into fresh water. I don't know how big that is. The report doesn't describe that. I would like for you to speak to the problem. What's the problem? Why do we need to abandon septic, go to sewer? Yeah, because if there's no problem, then the cost is stay with septic because it's much cheaper in the long run. But if there's a problem,
Recording in progress.
Their septics are working fine, except for maybe a handful of homes, which I don't know what are, and I feel for Can I ask you to respond to that?
Sure. Well, I mean, the initiative for study was the village looking at the potential of putting in a sanitary sewer in the future. There most certainly is a septic system or two in the village that is about to fail, especially in the older part of town. But given that there's not a rampant problem, there is no EPA investigation going on right now. And so this will eventually start to become worse and worse. But as of right now, there is no EPA compliance issues with the village. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, yes, I think I understood that from the report. What the report wasn't clear about, on page 29, first, it's summary of findings, summary of, middle of that page.
Okay.
You want to pull it out and read it?
No, I got it right here.
Maybe you can read it so the room can hear it. There's a sentence in there that speaks to leakage into freshwater systems, but it doesn't say how many. I don't know how prevalent this is.
And we don't know how many. We don't know how many.
Do we even know if it's coming from Hudson?
We know that septic systems fail, and that when they fail, they leak into the groundwater, they leak into the surface water systems. But as far as us surveying the village and finding these, no, we haven't done that.
Okay. Okay, so based on the quantity of the leakage, can you estimate? Can you look at this and say, well, this is probably, it's very prevalent, it's not very prevalent? I'm trying to get a handle on how big is the problem, how big will it become? Is this worth spending money on it now, or is it better off saying, you know what? Great job, Steve, I've got a good study, let's hold on 5 years when the problem becomes more prevalent.
Well, and I think again, what I said previously was that we did not do a survey and determine where these are leaking. Your septic system pumping provider, when he comes out, should be evaluating your system. And he could likely tell you what the condition of your system is and if there's any problems. But as far as us identifying specific locations, that was not part of our task. The presumption here is if there are 638 homes, there are some systems that are going to get end of their useful life, and they are going to start to leak.
I've been trying to make a good analogy for what we're doing. I haven't been able to come up with one. First my thought was, okay, you know, like a car. You know, car's running fine, but still maintain it, change oil in it as you want to keep working. Well, that's more like keeping the system operational today. And I thought, okay, if you had any surgeries that prevent problems down the road. And that's the best analogy I can have. We don't have a serious problem today. I don't know how big it is. We didn't do study because we have a problem. We did this study because they talked about it a lot of years. And as far as we know, it hasn't been a formal study done. So we wanted to do a study to try and get a feel for it. You know, everybody has an opinion whether they think it's good or bad or, you know, and like you said, it was free. I don't know. It was free for everybody here that still would not know. Don't be afraid. They're, yep, I knew they were fair. So, yeah, we're not solving any problem today, but we might be solving a problem.
My experience in the past with situations that drive movement forward is all it takes is 3 or 4 systems failing that make it obvious that there's a problem, and that's what initiates action on the village's part. So it's, there won't be 100 systems that fail all at once. There won't be.
I just not familiar with this at all. If there's 3 or 4, is there some health department process that says, okay, homeowner, you need to fix this? And then they would be
Responsible.
responsible. They would have something, they sue that. And the 638 home would be held responsible for what 3 or 4 were not happy.
That's correct. That's correct. Many times what happens though is as systems age and in an effort to solve the problem, rather than putting in a new leach field, which as the mayor says is not allowed, or to dig up the backyard and replace the septic system, the septic tank that's now leaking, someone will go to the end of the system and make a connection to the storm system. Likely on a Sunday night when nobody's paying attention. And then what happens is it enters into the village stormwater system, the village's stormwater system. And then the village has no idea where these connections are made. And this happens over time, multiple cases, to where maybe it's only 3 or 4 that have failed, but somebody who moved into a house that had an older system that really didn't have the capacity and started seeing ponding in their backyard, made a connection to a stormwater system. And then before you know it, there's a lot of contributors to an illegal discharge that's coming out of the village's stormwater system. And at that point, the village is responsible, yet short of digging up every line or going to every household, it's very difficult to identify exactly who's contributing.
Okay. Hey.
My name's George. Just been taking notes along the way, and actually bouncing off it, what he was just saying. I think the whole time, I mean, sound negative, but overall, I think you're hearing a lot of speculation. So it sounds like this entire thing is based on maybe the PA, maybe or maybe not, might make us do this someday. In some unknown year, you know, it's almost feels like it's being presented like in urgency, when a lot of information that I'm hearing isn't complete, and we're getting a lot of ambiguous information about it. It actually reminds me of work. I'm an investor for 15 years, and I've heard things with government my entire career. This is coming. It never comes. You know, so it totally reminds me of that, and it never really fully comes to life. Just the question that I would have, you know, Lexington, for example, in that other town, that the EPA forced to connect. Why did the EPA force them to connect? Would be something I would want to know, and they want to communicate with them, the reason why they had to do it versus why are they in Hudson, you know, making Hudson a good thing.
And because they had too much sewage in their drainage ditches now that we're going into for Lexington, with Mackinac, for now, okay.
And is that an issue that we have here?
No.
Okay, thank you. Another question, any idea of what point in their process, when they committed to it, did they get approval for grant money? And so forth, like you're saying, you don't know what grants you're going to get until you're fully committed, which that just really doesn't make any sense to me. Why would it be possible to be like, okay, here's the final proposal that you have, how much money would you guys give us if we do this? Well,
it is not the way it works.
So I worked in government for 13 years. It goes different ways. As we talk to and report the door, they say one thing one day, and they say another thing another.
It's not the way it works.
I was just done for 15 years. So, it just doesn't make sense that you put your foot through the door and you can't walk through that door no matter what you have. So,
and that's not the way it works either.
But that's when we talk to our senators, people like that, because they have influence and whatnot for that, because they have that pull to do that stuff. Lack of financing availability, 3 to 5 years on that one slide, like, that sounds like speculation, how do we know that? You know?
I did say, you don't know what's coming.
Right, and, but that's what I'm just continuing the theme of speculation. is what I'm saying.
Right now, there's more money available, and there will be more money available in the next 3 or 5 years than what there's ever been in the past.
Right.
We don't know what it'll be there,
5, 10, so.
So they don't know.
Okay. Why has the survey been conducted, like we're talking about, just recently about leakage and things like that? Like, is there any issue with,
Because we don't want to wait for that unless we are confident that it's financial to proceed. That's why the plans that we've got are tentative, and, we're just paying for initial analysis at this point in time.
Okay, so if we would be moving on to do the sewage system, would we be conducting a study first prior to committing something like this?
I don't know what time.
You know, see if we actually get an issue.
The way the process works is that the next step the village would be doing, would be initiating design, formal design.
Okay.
Right now, this is very preliminary, it's in order to get options in front of the village board to make a decision.
Okay.
Once that commitment is made to design, you're starting to look at a lot harder details on exactly what and where components are going to be going and what elements are required in various parts of town.
But does that sound like with the worst, that we haven't done a study to see if there is problems that we need a system like this, or just wanting a system like this?
And again, there's no need at this moment, there's no need.
Okay, so there's no need for this,
There's no need to pursue a system that would respond to an issue.
Okay.
This is done in a very preliminary sense to evaluate options, that's what this is.
Okay. And then if, say, if the system did get put in place, is there an option if we don't want to connect it?
That would be a board decision, and my recommendation is that we know.
Why would that be a no?
Well, you could, let me rephrase that. My recommendation would be that the bill would be spread across everybody. Now, if you chose not to connect, I would still want you to be billed. Because the facility is there for you to connect.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Right, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. I think from what I've done on this meeting, I think a lot of people, myself, we're having a hard time why the people can't vote on it. Why the board got to make that decision. Can you expand on that? You said earlier, checking in to make referendums and stuff.
So as your question, I'm not sure I paraphrase correctly. Why we think the board should be making this decision instead of the village?
Yeah, people live here, people that.
And we will check, and the board will decide if we want to do that type of thing. A lot of board members have been to all of these meetings, and have heard those comments before. And so.
I haven't been able to meet them for the other meetings, because I've been working nights, and this was the first time I've had a chance to. But I've got the feeling that there's a lot of people who would like to vote on this, and I just, the board.
I'm saying that may happen, I can't promise it'll happen, I don't know whether it's legal for it to happen, I will find out if it's legal for it to happen.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes.
But if it's a non-binding vote, then would the trustees of the village recognize what the response was by the citizens of the village?
I can't speak for what the trustees would do. I'm the mayor, the trustees are the ones that, control the purses and make decisions. So I cannot speak for what they do. So, I mean, go ahead.
Are there any barriers to growth in Hudson if you don't implement sewer? I mean, for years I've heard around town that the only, that Hudson is supposed to be too big to actually use septic systems, but we're still allowed because we passed PERC tests, according to the EPA. If a sewer system is not installed, does that put up barriers to further housing development or business additions or anything like that?
There are no limits as far as population, since if we exceed 2,500, then we have to go to sewer. There are no limits like that.
One of the constraints would be the lot size that would allow a septic system to go in. The developer that is going to try to maximize the parcel property would be better served by the number of lots he could put in there if they could have sewer connections instead of septic systems. Septic systems require square footage. So, and then the PERC test is always unknown. Certain parcels in town or adjacent property might not be suitable for septic systems, but may be desirable from a housing perspective anyways. Businesses that produce a significant amount of waste are likely not to have adequate property to be able to install a septic system size. The reason that Midward is looking to service Nussbaum and the other industry there is because they can't expand with their business is based on the capacity they have in their sewer systems, or their septic systems. So there are constraints that come with that.
Gentlemen back.
We've heard,
You please come up and use the mic.
We've heard a couple times tonight about the potential for septic system failure and that being, somebody divert that right into the town, all that. Do we have a breakdown based on the year built of the house? How many septic systems are there in that 30 or 50-year lifespan? We're looking at a 600 or whatever houses in town, are 300 of them hitting that 30-year mark, or 400 of them hitting that 30-year mark, where are we at?
We don't have that analysis.
Okay, because that to me would be a driving factor, are we headed towards that in 5 years?
You can kind of look around town, you've got the newer subdivision, new one on the south end, that's,
Right.
Worked for 20 years. You've got the newer one on the north end, that's 20 to 30 years old, and then you got pretty much everything else.
Yes. What's the number?
I
know you know. I'm saying that would be a very useful information to help make a decision in this case, especially to talk about potential for septic systems that how close are we to that potential there, right?
Okay.
To piggyback on what you said, I would assume you need a permit to build or replace a septic system, right?
Correct.
So we probably have those permits on hand, we can do a quick study, very quick study, go back 5-10 years to see how many septic system permits have been pulled in the last 5 to 10 years, and look at septic that have been replaced in town, and present that to the public, so that they have that kind of knowledge to get a judge vote, right?
We could, if we don't have those in Hudson, then we can't help our partner has them. So we have to get, their cooperation to see what we can have by 5 to 10 years. But keep in mind, we're asking how big the problem is tonight. right now, the problem is not a problem with this. What do you want Hudson to look like in the road 10 years from now? Do we want to see any growth in Hudson? Do we want to see any other housing development? Do we want to see a restaurant? What are the things that are going to impact Hudson over the next 20 years? That's one of the things we're trying to look at with sewer system. So,
Well, Bloomington, Normal, 4.5 miles away, or less, actually, the way they're growing, I'm not sure if we need to, grow, you know, that's my opinion. I didn't move to Hudson 40 years ago to, you know, have businesses and things, I could drive myself into town and have everything that I want, you know, it's great when you have Dollar General up there now, it's great when you have Casey's, you know? That's just my feel about it, but.
it would be nice if we had a restaurant.
We used to uptown, you got two places that there was a little incentive put forth, maybe you know, but people gotta support them too. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would like to answer Susan's question about other issues that we're concerned about except for the money. I'm concerned about the health and welfare of the citizens, because if they start digging a sewer system through the back alleys and in the fields, they're gonna put funguses, mold, mildews that are gonna affect the health, the breathing health and the environment of the animals that live here and the people that live here. So far, I know of 2 dogs that have died of blastomycosis in this area, and 3 people that have been fighting blastomycosis for over 4 years. One of the funguses that lives in this area. The other thing is, they just did studies and they published in March, April, and May of this year of what's called forever chemicals. And the plastics contain forever chemicals. And the more plastics you move into your yards and into your farm systems, it's going to go to the water systems, and they don't know how to get those out of the water system. We're putting a lot of chemicals into our drinking water that's hard to test for. And so for me, it's not just the money, of course, it's also the health of our community. Thank you.
Okay, I want to move on to the cost slide and explain a little bit about that. Okay, this slide right, which one are you on?
I'm on the financing.
Back up one. Yeah, financing is the one I want, go to that, go to that first. Okay, we talked a little bit about grants, and we talked about the final connection cost, we really already talked about everything on this page. Final connection cost, for the plumbing would be estimated at $300 or $400, so go ahead to the next slide now. The USDA, Department of Agricultural, Rural Development Guidelines are, for our medium household income, they recommend that the combined payment for debt usage average would be not exceeding $103.12 a month. So based on current water usages, our average water usage bill would be $19.26 a month. That would leave, taking $19 on $103, that leaves about $83 a month to pay for the debt, operating costs and everything else.
What about the $160 you're talking about 2 meetings ago?
The $160, we do not get additional grant money beyond the $700 we talked about earlier, then our payment would be $140 to $160 a month.
For 4 years?
Pardon?
For 4 years?
Yes. Well, it depends on, every time if you get more houses, then the bill is spread across more people. So the debt would either be paid off earlier or the amount would go down.
So it's gonna be $103, it's just an estimate, you know.
Well, we haven't got it down to $103. That's our initial. Right now, we're at 100, probably 140 to 160 a month. And our D recommendation is to get it at least down to $103 a month. With grants.
They term that the affordability criteria.
And yes, that's a lot of money a month. And, you know, and the questions we had before, you know, would anybody not want this if it was free? And there are people that don't, and even if it is free. So, I understand that, these are where we're at today with costs. And we need to let everybody know where we're at with this. So we're not saying you need to jump ahead with this today. We're trying to communicate out where we're at with this. Part of the IPA, part of something we have public hearings meetings. But yeah.
I just wonder if the way of comparisons for.
Mark, you come up here, please, you.
I just kind of information. Usually people can hear me without a microphone.
Except you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, in the way of comparison, you just laid out the, we're paying $20 for water, and then the rest of it is going to consist of. In the surrounding communities, how much do they pay for sewer? I think Bloomington's about 55 to $60 a month. Do we know that? I mean, so we can say, well, they're paying this much, and we're thinking about paying this much. How does that compare to the average cost of sewer? I know there's somewhere between $20 and $140 on the internet about how much people actually pay for sewer treatment. Do we know about the general area in here, how much they grant?
The distinction needs to be between payment for treatment and payment for debt service.
Well, it's $1 so, you know, what, how much are you
I do not know what the average is in Bloomington.
I know it's not free. And so we're comparing the $80 we have to pay to things that other people are actually already paying for the services. And that would be helpful to know, how much the surrounding communities are paying for.
Bloomington Normal has already gone through the major debt payment for the initial construction. And they do have a lot of maintenance costs, but the maintenance costs are far lower than the initial construction costs like we're looking at. So I saw a chart from this company that showed, and I can't share it because it's confidential, but it shows how much different communities are paying. But the chart does not say how much of the payment is for debt and how much is monthly usage. So it's, you know, I saw the bills were down in Hayward, and they were averaging 30 a month, but that did not include debt. So.
But is it a part of their bill?
I'm sorry?
Is it a part of their bill?
Yes, their monthly bill from the town, from normal anyway, one bill for water, one bill for garbage, and one bill for sewer. In fact, that's three different parts, all in one bill. So, like right now, our monthly bill has water and garbage on it, and there would be an addition for sewer.
And you're hoping to get it to $100 a month, $103.
We're hoping to get it.
$103 a month?
Just for the sewer part, that does not include water or garbage.
But it does include debt and
It
service.
does include debt and all your expenses related to sewer for the year would be bundled into that, or 3 months. You know, that's what the affordability index recommendation is from the government. I would like to see it much lower than that. Obviously, everybody would.
Well, I'm up here, I'll ask more questions. Working through the other things some of the other people said. One of the things I haven't said was that this expansion we're talking about, that's part of the service that's now maintaining the Twin Cities now, is now moving north. There's a motivation for that movement, and it's not us. It's that they're planning on growing in that area, right? I mean, they're right now, we got subdivisions that are north of Northtown Road. And I grew up in LA, so I'm telling you, communities just grow together. And I'm thinking that in the future, they will grow out here. And they will probably grow towards us. And then is that a better time to look at it than now when we don't have a problem and we're looking at so much expense?
I wish I had a crystal ball and answer that. I don't know when the best time. We need to look at it, see what it's gonna cost. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, we are working on a boundary agreement with Normal, to where they would not cross, a mile south of Hudson, I think that's 2000 North Road. East 2000 North is a mile south of Hudson. They would not go north of that, and we would not go south of that, for the most part. So we are working on a boundary agreement with them, but, you're right, and Normals doesn't have a lot of different options as far as where they're growing, and they are growing north. And, yeah, it's, I don't know if the towns will ever, but if Midward puts the sewer line in on East 2000 Road North, it wouldn't matter if Normal was right there or if they were 10 miles south. That's what we would be connecting to, regardless of how far Normal goes out. So, yes, sir.
You know, this is an age-old problem that goes back almost 50 years now. And at that particular time, trustee with the fire department, Chuck Schowski, said that the Normal would be encroaching upon our doorstep within 5 years. And that was the state that had made. This has been going around now. And the talk of sewers has been since Bill Waller was mayor. And Bill Waller said at the time that we were at a plateau where we were almost saturated. Now, during that time, we built a subdivision to the north of us and a subdivision to the south of us, basically in the town of Hudson. And consequently, you have 60 people that are going to make a decision on the situation that has been developing for 50 years. And the EPA has not told us that we have to do this. And we're going to turn this over to 60 people to decide. This affects everybody in here, everybody in the town. The bottom line is, I don't see that that can be a non-binding referendum. This has to be a binding referendum that comes from the people, what they want to do with the town.
I will check with our legal, see if it can be a binding referendum or not. He told me it could be a non-binding referendum, I was asked about that. I will see if it can be a binding referendum, that's an option.
Well, we can have 6 people that decide in favor of everybody here. And it costs the retirees and everybody else a considerable amount of money. What you're projecting may not be the final cost. That could be upwards of $200 water and sewer. And the question is, we don't know at this time what it's gonna cost. And I think by the time you look at this, and you put that kind of burden on people that are in this town, I think it has to be made by more than 60 people.
Well, I don't know what our options are, but most of those 60 people are here tonight, and that's why we're having all these meetings. So you can tell these 60 people that they're the ones that have to make the decision. you can tell them, you know, what your opinions are. So that's part of what we're doing tonight.
They got my opinion right there.
I understand it.
Thank you.
Tell us at the next board meeting about that non-binding.
I should have it, yeah, at our next board meeting, yes.
And when is that?
Whether or not you can be a binding referendum or a non-binding referendum, vote at our next election.
I think it's next year, let them know at the next meeting.
Yeah, I should find out by then. So, yes.
So a lot of us obviously have sheds in our backyard, wooded or wrought iron, fences, what have you. What would be the plans to work around those, or cut around those, or would homeowners be responsible for removing sections of the fences, the cost to remove a shed, and that? Also, same question, once all the ground is settled, pay for the infill of soil and seeding and straw, et cetera, et cetera. Those costs would be, you know, I'm sure $1,000 plus per homeowner that has to agree with that.
A good portion of those elements would be defined in the contract documents and plans, and the contractor would be responsible for those. They're going to be responsible for settlement, for reseeding, for movement of any structures that we can't work around, for removal and replacement of fencing. But that all comes out in final design. The intent would be to choose the path of least resistance and lowest cost.
But that's more than likely, if they would order that 30 million or whatever.
Yes.
Do they usually able to work around sheds and dig under the fences?
It just depends on the specific situation. That comes out in design.
Would homeowners get a chance to react if it was like, or would they just show up in the backyard and start tearing apart my secret?
What would the term react mean? I don't understand what your term react means.
Would homeowners have a chance to react, like, I don't want someone showing up and just cutting down my.
No, that is not the way this works. The process is that once construction starts, there's a plan, they're working in a particular direction, there's notification, there's information on the village's website as far as where work's going to take place, and then the contractor is much more responsible than you're giving him credit for. It'd typically be the engineer, the village, that would be identifying what needs to happen. And let's say your backyard is totally blocked off and we can't get to the connection that we know is under your shed or behind your shed, or we'd have a discussion long before dirt started turning about how we were going to get to your connection.
Somebody.
Yes, correct.
If you want to add to the people that have fences or sheds and alleys, that they did not get a permit for, or they were told not to put a fence in the alley and they did anyway, those might be expenses borne by the homeowner. So, and I know we have something for that, I have no idea.
But, there is no oil, that would be within that.
It's typically associated with the construction costs. As the mayor said, if it's an alley where it's right away, you know, that's correct.
Well, that's, I can tell you right now, I've got several huge trees in my neighborhood. They're white, we don't know where the alley is, but we don't know where our new property line is either. But they're numerous big trees, I mean, I'm talking 3 feet in diameter. So those construction person ain't gonna work that deal.
We would work around trees of that size if at all possible. It's expensive to take down a tree, as you're saying, so, you know, again, these are going to fall out of the specific design, and if there's no option in coming into wherever the connection needs to be made, you know, a tree would have to be removed. And that is a component of the tree removal.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank all of you for going to all this bother and doing this study for us and having all these meetings. We weren't aware of the first two meetings and we had to do the third one here tonight. I just want to understand the reason that this all started, was it just because the possibility of grants available now, since we don't have a problem?
I was for us to study, because it didn't talk about it in a lot of years.
Right.
And the best of my knowledge, that's all was ever talked about. I heard one person say they needed one lift station to get one to normal. Heard another say they needed two, but we couldn't connect this part into normal, they didn't have capacity. You know, I heard a lot of hearsay.
Right.
And I thought, okay, let's do a study.
Sure.
We had the opportunity to get a grant to pay part of the study, which we're taking advantage of. And, you know, what's the best for Hudson down the future? We all have an idea of what we want to see, what's the best for Hudson down the road. So I want this to be a study to be an option.
I think a lot of people that move here love the bedroom community, and since we have big towns, even El Paso, so close to us, we don't want all that business in the town. It'd be nice for the tax base, but, I'm personally, we enjoy, my husband grew up in a small town, so we've been living in Sonoma for almost 20 years, and we love it here. And people are a lot more friendly, they're willing to help each other. I mean, it's a wonderful community. But I do appreciate the study to know, what we have, but we still have a lot of unanswered questions. And I think most of us, from what I'm hearing tonight, don't want to have expense, because a lot of us are retirees, and this isn't a problem. I mean, I know you think you've got grant money now, but usually there's grant money down the road or whatever. So, I mean, if we don't have even a tenth of a problem, maybe it's easy to table. But I do appreciate this, I appreciate all the times we need.
Being able to be able, and again, we're not doing this because we have a problem today.
Right.
We know there's a potential for a problem in the future.
Right, but that could be years down the road.
And it could be 5 years down the road. We don't know. Right, I understand.
You'll never know that,
Right.
but, it makes sense. And if most communities, we need to find out, I think, so that you guys can go through your conscience. Why do you wanna, and you're gonna have the same bills. Why do you want to, force something down most communities' road that they really don't want it now? And, it may see a lot of for sale signs go up if it gets forced on people.
Some of the board are also.
Sorry, I prepared a couple things, I don't remember what I want to say. So, I attended this meeting, obviously, in the last meeting, and I know a lot of people are concerned about the cost of sewer system. And, I think of myself as a citizen, I'm a fixed income, I am one, so I'm concerned about cost too. But cost for this kind of improvement in infrastructure generally don't go down over time. And I have never heard any kind of major infrastructure project that will cost ever go down. And we can check, double check big news to a point where that process of checking everything just adds to cost and takes time. And voting on a topic, how many people will show up for a vote? Some people have suggested that increased cost of the sewer system would stop businesses from wanting to open in Hudson, and might cause businesses to leave. I've lived here for over 40 years, and during that time, the population of the community has roughly doubled. When I first moved to town, there were businesses operating that are not open now, but new businesses have opened here since I've lived here too. I don't think that adding sewer systems is something going to attract a lot of businesses to town, and I truly hope that having a modern wastewater disposal system would cause businesses to avoid Hudson. Several people have mentioned concerns about having yards torn up, or there's no one who's spending any time working on lawns, gardens, or other backyard amenities would look forward to having damage from installing sewer systems. But I would prefer that to being concerned that water might hit the basement when it rains heavily.
I also don't believe that continued reliance on individual septic systems is good for the overall health of our community, especially when some of the lots in town are too small for replacement of those systems. The report mentioned that there are already individual systems that are failing. We don't know how many. Also illegal hookups to storm sewers. And if there are, as residents of the village, which is a friendly place, do we just say too bad to our neighbors whose lot might be too small to replace an existing system that's failed? I think that hurts us all more in the long run with potentially depressed home values and et cetera. And even if the EPA is not forcing our community to implement a sewer system at this time, the report mentions that elevated levels of coliform bacteria and ditches downstream of the village have been identified by the IPA. They could make that decision to say, you need it now before we're really ready for it. So seeking this type of improvement now when we're in a position to seek good design, the best costs, and as many grants as possible to keep costs manageable is the right thing to do, in my opinion. Sometimes we just have to bite the bullet, so to speak, in terms of increasing costs of utilities now for greater improvement over time. I do have a question, actually. When I looked at the maps of the proposed sewer line shown in the study report, I didn't notice any in the Prairie View subdivision. I think they've got some kind of sewer treatment of their own. But I don't know what's going on, so I wonder if there's any plans to include them in the whole village sewer system if there is one. So, thank you.
If Prairie View would be included, they already have some of the main collection lines installed. They were installed when the subdivision was developed. That's why there's no new lines for new tile or new collection pipes. Thank you.
I'm Dave Holt, live up on Platte Way. Just a couple of things. I know we found out that we could have a non-binding referendum, and that's going to be in the spring, or could be in the spring. Is that correct? And you'll find out if we can have a binding.
Yeah, it has to be followed with the county, I don't know, X number of days before the next election.
But the earliest would be spring.
The earliest, that's the next election, one of the spring elections. Yes.
Okay. And so when would the trustees make their decision, the table, move forward? When do you expect that to happen?
I expect that within the next 3 to 6 months.
Even though the potential non-binding referendum would be in the spring, we're gonna make a decision.
Yeah, and they may make a decision if we find out that we can do a binding referendum. They may make that next month or two, to go ahead with a not binding or binding resolution.
I'm talking about a decision whether to move forward with the sewer plan or to stay with our existing septics. When will the trustees make that decision?
We haven't got a timetable. I don't know how soon that decision would be made. Any of the trustees want to help answer that? I don't think they're ready to. I don't think we have enough information to say, yeah, we're gonna go ahead at this point in time. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I didn't have a good answer for you, but I'm trying to be honest, so.
I appreciate it. How deep are those lines usually put?
I'm sorry?
How deep are the lines usually put?
These are gravity lines, so they typically start out a minimum of 2 foot coming from the house, maybe a little bit deeper. Sewer connections coming out of the house vary. On a slab, they may be that shallow. In a basement, might be deeper, and then they will run up to kind of 16, 18 feet is kind of a maximum depth here in central Illinois. That is entirely dependent on soil conditions.
You wanna talk just for a second on the next slide, and then we'll go ahead.
Okay, I'm Claudia Gregory, I live up Bennett. I've been here 20 years. I'm also an election official, election judge, and very proud of the people of Hudson. The last election, which wasn't a presidential election, they had over 900 voters. Now there's 1,800 people, but that's kids and stuff too. So I have a lot of faith that the people will come out. I asked at the last meeting, we need a referendum. It's too much money to spend without all of us getting a say. So I hope you talk to your lawyers, and I hope there's an answer. Binding, non-binding, we need to be able to speak our voice.
Okay, somebody in the back?
Yeah, I just had one more quick question. Where we watched movies get flood out from these 100-year rain you get every 10 years or so. What's the guarantee that we're not gonna put this in, putting it in Apple back to the inventory bill? We're not gonna have the same problem here, we're gonna start back in the our system, we don't have to deal with it.
Okay, so if I wanna paraphrase your question and to make sure I understand it. Bloomington has had problems where sewage is backed up into their houses when they've had heavy rains. Is that correct? Okay, the systems we are looking at here in Hudson would be two totally separate systems. One system for rainwater and one for sewer. Systems in Bloomington where they've had problems with the heavy rains are a combined system where the same pipe is carrying sewage and water. And so that's why they've had issues in Bloomington. And Bloomington is working to separate those, but it's a multiple year project for them. I don't know how long it'll take to get it done.
So we'll have two lines, one for.
We will have separate lines.
It will be very important during construction to ensure that there's no sump pump lines, yard drain lines, anything that would contribute to the village's sanitary system. Because the payment method that will occur with Benward will be essentially by the gallon. Village will be paying by the gallon for the treatment of their wastewater. So it's financially advantageous for the village not to allow that to happen. The construction specifications will identify how that is to be done, and there will be essentially leakage tests on the lines after they're constructed to make sure that there's no groundwater coming in.
Is there a contingency plan for, like, they do get a trickle down for, give you an example, a family that live up in Greenview, and they have some, they get the best sewer system, never flooded back, they had a massive downpour, all the sewage back up into all the homes up there. It was a complete mess, everybody lost their basements. Yeah, and I know we're on two separate lines, but is there a contingency plan to say, well, we can handle this amount of gallons coming down, or whatever?
There would be no connection between the sanitary system and the stormwater system.
So only back at the cookout would be.
Sewage, raw sewage coming back in with, I'm not sure what sort of situation would drive that. With a lift station, here's our lift station. Here's the line coming into the lift station. Here's the depth of the lift station, and then it pumps it up and out. Typically, a basement is not something you're really going to want to serve. There's probably very few homes in Hudson right now that have a gravity connection to their septic system. It just won't work. Okay, so they
With the toilet in the basement.
with a toilet in the basement, all right? You would have an ejector pump, and that ejector pump then lifts that up to the septic system elevation, and it flows out by gravity. So you're protected right there with that separation. Most communities that have the sort of issues that Glenview has, all right, would say, we don't want a sanitary connection in the basement. They would then, a lot of municipalities have done this where they've funded ejector pump installations to change that elevation up to here so that that doesn't occur. But but a new sanitary sewer system would have no connection to a stormwater system, and that infiltration and inflow that is the problem in Bloomington Normal would not be present here.
Okay, move on to the next slide for a second. If anybody pulls the PowerPoint down and looks at it, this particular slide shows what our monthly cost would be under different circumstances. If all we got was the IEPA $5 million grant, we would be paying $165 a month. The IP loans would be a 20-year loan. If we go with the USDA RD grant, which is a 40-year loan for the balance, we would still be paying about the same, $164.99 a month. With both grants, we would be looking at somewhere around $133.18 a month. And then the bottom of the charts are, if we get an additional $5 million grant, that would bring our monthly bill down to $101. Additional $7.5 million, we get down to $85. Additional $10 million grant, we'd be down to $69. If we could get an additional $13 million grant, we'd be down to $50 a month. So this is based on the $23 million system that would connect to Benward. So that's kind of what our monthly bill would be. This would include debt payment and any annual payment to Benward if we would become part of that process, and usage payment. This would be what your bill would be. This does not include water or garbage. This is just for the sewer part. So the next slide shows what we're doing now. We are conducting our public meetings. Board decision on whether to proceed or not. We'll look into the voting possibilities of that. But regardless of whether we have a binding or non-binding referendum, you need to talk to your board members and let them know your opinions. And that's why we're having these meetings now. We're trying to get everything out to you that we can get out, and we want you to continue to provide feedback to the board. So I do have a question. And for those of you that raised your hand that would not want this if it were free, is it because your yards would be tore up, or what are some of the reasons? If you don't mind telling me.
The main reason is your neighbor's sewage backing into our basement.
That's not gonna happen.
You know, a long time it's not, it's just,
It
you can never say always or never.
It wouldn't happen. The system is designed so that that would not occur. What would have to happen is that every lift station in the village would have to stop working, all right, for an extended period of time, 4 or 5 days, all right, and that everyone would continue to use their sewer system at the same rate, all right? When was the last time the power went out? How long was it out?
I was about 8 hours one time.
Yeah, and
I had a whole off dinner because of it.
and these lift stations would have generators also.
I obviously,
In terms of if it were free. If you didn't tear up yards, if you didn't kill a bunch of trees and it was free, I'd be okay for it.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not gonna be free, and if we do get one, yeah, there's gonna be yards tore up. So, but, yes,
What happens if the contractor runs out of money putting this in? Then what happens?
I'm sorry.
I've seen this before. What happens if the contractor runs out of money because he underbids the situation and then he falls back? I've seen this at the university too many times where the contractor runs out of money, they fall back for more money, they get more money, and they still run out of money, and they walk away from the job. Then they start shabby on themselves and finish it up.
Contract documents include what's termed a performance and payment bond. It's an insurance policy that from a reputable insurance company that says that the contractor will finish the work or that the insurance company will take over.
And the other question I have for you is you want to expand Hudson. Last time you did the water study on the water tower and the water lines coming in, it's pretty much almost maxed out. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, I did not hear all of your
I
questions.
said, the last time they did a study on the water tower, the rumor I heard was the water tower was not maxed out and all the lines coming into Hudson. Everybody don't know, lived all my life, and the line coming in from a pipeline out there comes all the way down Hudson Road. It's got a big U in it. Did anybody know that?
Yes,
Because the guy wouldn't let him go across the property.
right.
So, I'm sorry, so you gotta expand the water lines. I'm thinking in the water tower, would you got to expand any bigger? I don't know.
I'm not sure the last part of your question. I understand the line coming in, the big U, because there was a problem with one of the property owners.
Expansion to build out further because I have that water pressure hardly now. Water coming from town.
Okay, that should not be impacting the water pressure that you have in your home, that U. Because the water pressure in your home comes from the water in the water tower, not from how it gets to the water tower.
I understand that.
Okay. So are you saying that we may have the same problem with sewer lines?
No, the water comes through and expand that, so you gotta have more water. Right? You're maxed out on water coming to this town. Pretty much.
What would occur from an engineering perspective would be eventually, and eventually is way down the road, the village would require additional capacity, storage capacity. So at some point, there'd be another elevated or ground storage tank. And that line that fills the water tower now would fill both tanks. And the sizing of that new tower would be based on the consumption during the day in excess of what the current tower could provide and anticipating some growth.
The reason I say no is because of the health and welfare of the people in the town and the possibility of putting it in areas where you're going to put mold and mildew. Illinois is one of 10 states with bad air quality anyway. You're endangering the health and welfare of this small town because it's small. And the number of miles that you're going to put in to make the sewer system.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to contribute? Okay, do we have any other questions or comments from the audience?
Are we gonna have another one of these, meetings like this?
We certainly can. We have not scheduled any at this point in time. We started with 3 and we added a 4th. Do you know of other people that want to come to a meeting like this? Because we can certainly have a 5th meeting.
Could we just have a meeting telling us the most current status?
We will start discussing our current statuses at our regular board meetings. We'll start doing that again. The last couple board meetings, we pretty much glossed over where we're at with the sewer study because of our public meetings that we've been holding. But we will start talking about it where we're at with everything at our regular board meetings. And so if anybody is welcome to attend those, those are streamed. You can watch them from your home on the internet. They're also recorded and you can play them back at a later point in time if you want to. So if you want to look at are the public meetings we've had here also stored, Sarah? Or just the regular meetings?
They should all be out there.
Okay, so any of the past meetings that we've had for this are available to you. You can call the village and Sarah can tell you how to access that if you want to look at any of the previous meetings, so. Yes,
Is the study complete?
is
At
the
this
study,
point, complete
no,
at this point? Okay.
no, we are at a certain phase. The study is probably gonna be submitted to IPA, or have we already done that? Okay, we have submitted it to IPA. They know it's a preliminary plan and it's not final at this time, so The next thing we would go into if we continue would be to either secure more financing or start some of the design work or do both. So when you say final, I mean, we've got, good plans, but they are not final. So whether we change it based on whether it's part of the study or just as we learn more, what we've got here could change. So. Have any other questions? There have been a lot of traffic on the internet. Some of it's accurate, some of it's not. When you read what's on the internet, keep that in mind. It's just like anything else. What you read on the internet, some is right, some is not. So not everything you read out there is accurate. Please be contacting me or the board members with your questions, and we will do the best to answer them. I should have an answer at our next regular board meeting about whether we can put it to a referendum or not to proceed. And our attorney should be able to tell me that real quick. So, if there are any other questions? It's the last call for questions, comments. If not, I want to thank everybody for coming. A lot of good questions again tonight, and we hope we've answered some of your questions. So hopefully you know where we're at. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks everybody for coming.